Hi, everyone. This is Lyrata Barrett for the Institute for Global Transformation, bringing you global meditation for the month of April. Welcome. Today, this particular teaching is going to be packed, and I want to take a moment and reflect on where we're coming from, the movement from last month's teaching to April. So last month, we discussed the distinction, the very important distinction, between my will and divine will. Humanity, the will humanity uses collectively and individually, and where it all originates from. Divine will, from the one life, God, that which creates us, created us. And we are an aspect of reflection in form of that energy. We looked at how humanity appropriates through long periods of time, and at some point in time awakens because the direction of humanity is to spiritual growth, okay? Inherently, we are all in initiation at some point and level of initiation. That is the trajectory, not only of this planet, but of humanity and all of its kingdoms. So, but especially us, because we have the power to use will, and we are self-reflective. So at some point we awaken from the position or the aspect of life wherein we think we own everything. Everything is here for at our beck and call to be used without consideration as to its function, its place, its purpose, and the balance in all things. Our footprint on this planet diminishes the life of other beings and toxifies oceans and seas and air and landscapes if in fact we weren't checked, okay? And it's a constant struggle to maintain balance. The animal kingdom has depreciated considerably because of our moving into their realms and creating, of course, our homes, residences, businesses, you name it. But at some point, we awaken from this way of being, this glamour, and begin another line of thinking, another line of discovery and movement. This is the movement, this is the aspect of mental development. And this is where humanity is. This is at that point where humanity is en masse, moving from, as I've been saying for the last number of months, an emotional polarity into a mental polarity. Within that movement, we discover that we, the microcosm, have been given the gift of creation, the ability to create as the macrocosm does, as the one life does. And as a result, there is a movement from childlike behavior due to our immaturity. We're growing up, we're evolving, but nevertheless, we outpicture like 17 or 18-year-olds, or maybe let's say 15 to 17-year-olds. So we now must learn how to properly use this power of creation, the ability to wield and understand its rules, the ability to realize that we are now moving into a new arena. And that arena has particular dictates to it, rules and regulations, so that we are able to wield this energy properly and powerfully over time. Okay? So our planet, and therefore all the kingdoms of our planet, within our planet, are undergoing this level of expansion, a brand new level of initiation. Okay? I've talked about this before in past lessons. So we need to begin to understand the next level, our next level, our next dimension, and our next expansion in consciousness. All of those are the same thing, just said in different ways. Okay? And realize that we are in, as I was saying before, a new playing field, and that there are new rules and regulations in order for us to be able to manage and work and wield the power that this particular new level has for us to be able to create consciously rather than unconsciously, to be able to create in alignment with the divine rather than for the separated self. Okay? This new level of awareness that is open now to humanity is an aspect of the movement from, and I've mentioned this before, go back to past videos and you'll hear me talk about the path of experience versus the path of wisdom. Okay? These are thresholds, so to speak, doorways in the path of initiation that we are all on. And I mentioned them in detail in the past months. This is really learning how to create, becoming mentally polarized as opposed to emotionally polarized, and learning that the ability and the gift of creativity that is given to humanity is an aspect of the work of the white magician. Okay? It's the work of the one who is group conscious, group focused, soul focused, and aware that we here are vehicles, instruments for the divine. And when we are aware of our purpose and as instruments of the divine, we then are in alignment with and are focusing to make sure that we're not using the little will, but we're focused and working in accord and in alignment with divine will. So we get to know the distinction between the white work of the white magician and the black magician. And as we begin to walk this way, as we begin to want to walk this way and begin to realize that this is important, this is an important shift, then we have to stop and ask ourselves, what is our motivation? What is our interest in this work? And why do we ask ourselves that? Because it's important to know and make sure, because our ego plays tricks with us. Okay? We can tell ourselves all kinds of things as to the reasons why we want to do something. But in truth, if we're telling ourselves a story that's not true, then we are beginning to use deceptive methods to work under the umbrella of the white magician. And I will simply tell you at this point in time that there is a law, a universal law that prevents that. The very fact that one's internal signature is being throttled by the separated self automatically means those doors are closed. Okay? One's life is an evidence of who you are, what your interest is, and how you will navigate from day to day, moment to moment. And if you are self-serving, then you only go but so far. Okay? So our goal is to be able to learn connecting our will to divine will. Okay? Creating consciously rather than unconsciously. So let's examine in this lesson how the will has been used to create experiences, our experiences in the past. Those experiences that we become very familiar with and conditioned to by. Okay? We said in one of our past lessons that emotions are feelings. They don't just their emotion they don't just crop up out of nowhere. Okay? They just don't manifest on their own. They don't come by chance. They're created consciously and unconsciously as we experience situations in life around us. We really are like computer programs. Once something is experienced, we register a certain feeling or emotion, which gets programmed into our being, our memory bank, and registers at each similar occurrence or incident. We react as we're programmed, as we've programmed ourselves to react, or we react as we allow others to program us. News, advertising, stuff like that. Yet we're perfectly capable of recognizing this fact and changing the program. It's arbitrary. We create a thought form that directs that emotional response. Today, we're going to learn the mechanics of changing the program, techniques to change the program. So let's take a moment and experiment. I ask you to close your eyes, pause for a moment, and choose to feel a certain emotion. Don't think why or the reason for that particular feeling or emotion. Simply focus on the emotion and its shading or its type. Using your will, focus in the mind and produce the emotion until you feel its depth of feeling. You feel it to its fullest context. Now relax the reaction. Drop it simply, letting it go, and calm the emotional nature. Okay, we're going to continue with more techniques, building on this last one. Now, close your eyes again, go inside, and choose a different emotion. It's opposite from the one before. Allow its expression to build within you. Experience its depth of feeling and reaction. And now allow the emotion to subside and calm the emotional nature. And here's a third aspect, again building on the last two. Bring to mind a situation that usually produces a certain emotional response within you. Perhaps focus on resentment or depression. Allow this emotion to grow until you feel its depth and it reaches its zenith. Focus your will in the mind. Focus your will in the mind. And take hold of that response. Realize that the energies you are expending in this emotional response are the exact same energies you would expend if your reaction were one of love or understanding. It's the same energy. It's simply impressed with a different intent by your will. Ask yourself these three questions as you hold this awareness. Is this particular emotion, first question, is this particular emotion adding strength to the forces of light or darkness? Second question, are the effects of this emotion beneficial or harmful? Are the effects of this emotion of a beneficial or harmful nature? Last question, do I really want to act this way? Relax the emotional nature, calm the emotional nature, releasing. So now we are learning that we can reprogram our database, our memory bank, our computer. We can do it ourselves. How do you wish to feel in the future? When something habitual or that situation comes for you to experience again and again and again. How do you want to feel in the future? How do you wish to respond? To that situation which in the past has evoked a habitual program, old response. Choose the feeling that you want to respond with. Focus your intent again. By creating a thought form in your mind and turning that emotion into an expression of Christ love in response to the same situation that you were feeling before, the resentment and or depression. Bring that feeling back up. Feel it completely at its zenith. You've asked yourself the pivotal questions and reflected on them, on the answers. Now you are focusing your intent to create a new response. And you do this by creating a thought form in your mind and turning that emotion into an expression of Christ love in response to the exact same situation. Create the emotion of Christ love until you feel that love flowing out of you toward the situation and all those involved. With that love that you're feeling and you're allowing to move out and into others, into the situation, you're allowing an outflowing of energy, of love to the situation. Ask the Spirit of Christ to manifest right relationship in the situation. Then relax the reaction, calm the emotional feeling and nature, and flood it with peace. So now we examine what is cause. Does cause lie in the experience or in the mind that creates the experience? Of course, if you're like me, when I heard this at one point, I had to kind of, what's the word, freeze for a moment and ask myself, did I cause that to happen? Did I bring that into my life? Am I responsible? And of course, I also went to, oh, well, I know I didn't cause that. No way was I responsible for that happening. Really? We have to ask that based on the information that I'm about to pass and share with you. When we hold in our mind a certain thought form, that thought form acts like a magnet and attracts the people, the situations, everything we need in order to grow and move beyond whatever our ring pass knot is, our boundary is regarding that particular situation. Whatever it is, when we hold in our mind a certain thought form, I don't like people who are like this. Guess what? That's what we're attracting into our life. The will attracts what's needed to carry out a planned activity. Planned activity. It has a magnetic quality. The thought form that creates the sequence of events and all that it attracts in order for us to learn constitute an unconsciously created plan. We attract it for our own growth. That's the truth. Yep. Energy follows thought. Remember that. Say it. Repeat it in your mind all the time. Energy follows the thought. Okay? Energy's following it. A thought form is a planned activity. It produces an emotional and physical reaction. There are 3 experiments we should be practicing on a daily basis. And this is to teach us how to create consciously rather than unconsciously. Okay? We've all heard the saying, practice makes perfect. And this is true of a musician, an artist, a teacher, an athlete. Anything and anyone who wants to be good at something only gets there as a result of repetition, practice, discipline, showing perseverance. That same discipline and need for practice applies here. So 3 experiments that we need to practice daily on an ongoing basis. Because, why? Because if we create a goal, we have to have discipline to build that goal or to, edify, build that goal into manifestation. We grow into Christedness. We grow into Christ-like behavior. It just doesn't happen at the snap of a finger. We don't say, I'm going to be a white magician, and then boom, we are it. No, it only comes through the practice of rudiments, discipline, step-by-step process and thinking. First this, then that, then this, then that, then this, holding a certain alignment and energy and focus, and allowing ourselves not to waver in any way, shape, or form, because that wavering will manifest in what is outpictured. It will show. It will weaken the strength, the invocative strength of whatever it is we're creating. So what are we practicing? We're practicing, really, the techniques of love and light through the Christ principle. That's what we need to develop. There was a time that I was rather athletic and took up for a few years, maybe a year, 2 years, Shotokan karate, where they drill you. You are drilled on certain responses, certain actions and reactions constantly with a pseudo opponent, someone acting as though they are charging at you, coming at you with certain actions. And you automatically go into these movements with an opponent in front of you or just imagining one in front of you, okay? But you're drilled on it in every class, over and over and over and over again. And you get better in the movements. Your position gets more focused and power moves through you as a result of it. Okay, you can feel the difference in your body. Your muscles become toned in that process, in that practice. So I went to my mother's house, my mother and father's house, one holiday, and my brother and his wife had flown in, and we were all together. And he had heard that I had been taking karate, and he just looks at me out of nowhere and looks intently at me, and suddenly comes at me with a strike that I automatically went right into position with. Well, it was just no thought whatsoever. It just knew, my body knew exactly what to do. That's what we're talking about. Okay, that kind of training over and over and over again, that automatically, regardless of what we see out pictured, the flow of energy, of love, that Christedness that is within us, every last one of us, that soul impulse of love and wisdom automatically flows through. So we build these practices into your form nature. We talked previously about the 3 laws inherent in the creative process. So exercise 1 will include the law of polarity. This law is appropriated, or we utilize it through the understanding and the act of will. So, first and foremost, know that or realize that the forces of will and intelligence applies to creativity, matter, substance. The forces of will and intelligence are polar forces of creativity. They attract. Polar forces are those energies that attract each other. Okay? Once will impresses substance, creativity happens. Will and intelligence are the same as, well, really, they're the same to the soul as spirit and matter are to consciousness, the consciousness of the divine, consciousness of the one life, the consciousness of God. So, will and intelligence, or substance or matter, will impressing matter or held over matter for a period of time creates to realize that within you are these two forces from the one life inherent within our being. And they are our divine heritage. They are your divine heritage. It's your right and your duty as an adult child of God rather than an infant child of God to use them correctly, to bring them together, which will create a magnetic field between the two where creativity happens. It's an alchemical process, people. That's what we're talking about here. And we are learning that which has been hidden from us for long periods of time. There was a time when humanity knew this, ages ago. And as we've moved through the different yugas, the different epochs, so to speak, the golden age, silver age, all of these has seen and automatically sees a degeneration, slow, distancing from the known knowledge of the golden age. And here we are at the end of the epoch, Kali Yuga, the last of them, before we move back into the golden age again. Okay? Kali Yuga is the complete dismantling and total opposite of what has been known. It's the most distant place from the knowing, so to speak. And yet, even as we are there, the knowing is seeping in. It's absolutely amazing. The knowing is moving in as we move from an emotional polarity into a mental polarity, which is part of the evolutionary trajectory of humanity in and of itself, so that we can shift into that next higher level approximation to the divine. And we'll talk more about that later. So realize that within you are these two forces from the one life. They are your divine heritage. It's our right to wield this knowledge, but it can only be handled, wielded. It can only be used if, in fact, we are in right alignment with the divine. If we're not, nothing happens. Abracadabra, nada. Okay? So, bringing this to a close, there are certain exercises that you should be practicing. The first, focus the consciousness steadily in the center between the brows. Let's do this now. Take a moment. Focus the consciousness steadily in the center between the brow, the ajna center. We know where that is. 3 to 4 inches, sometimes 3 to 6 inches, depending on the evolution of the person and the practice, the know-how, beyond the forehead. Focus the consciousness steadily in the ajna center. Bring the intent of the will, your will. Bring the intent of divine will to bear upon your mind, upon the mind. Let your intent be a positive one, that being to manifest the Christ principle in your life and affairs. It's a powerful intent. Imagine these two forces, the will and the mind, coming together in the ajna center to create a magnetic field of creativity. Then separate them, permitting the will or focused intent to recede back into the head and the intelligent substance of mind to become quiet. You're to do this exercise 3 to 4 times a day. When you do it, each time, become consciously aware of the will and the intelligent mind as two polar forces, forces designed to work together. That alchemical chamber, which once that door is shut, stuff happens, and one impresses the other. If you persist in doing this on a daily basis, 3 or 4 times a day, you will begin to understand what is meant by polar forces and the law of polarity as a reality. Exercise number 2. A thought form is constructed as a magnetic field created by the polar forces of will and mind and maintained in the mind. So create that thought form. As a magnetic field, feel it, feel it. You can feel it's magnetic. And it's created through the polar forces of will and mind. And it's maintained in the mind, in that ajna center. Now, focus the consciousness steadily in the center between the brows and bring the will to bear upon the mind via a focused intent. Create the intent, bring the will to bear upon the mind. Focused on the intent, whatever that is. And be the same one that we just did. Activating Christ. Like intent. Christed intent in your life. Maintain the magnetic field in the mind by holding the intent steady and observe the construction of the thought. You don't want to interfere with the creative activity that's taking place. Instead, you simply observe the thought born in the magnetic field as a result of your intent. Excellent. Now, the third experiment is one where the focus is energy follows thought. First thing to do, again, go inside. Allow a thought form with which you are familiar to come into your mind. Observe the directional flow of the resulting energy precipitation. How does the energy move that you're viewing and experiencing? What reactions does it cause to appear in time and space? How does it make you feel? And what will it cause you to do if you permit it to continue? Hold the thought created via the second exercise in the mind and observe the energy reaction it causes. Hold the thought created via the second exercise in the mind and observe the energy reaction it causes. How does it make you feel? What will it make you do if you hold it steadily and focus? Consider the effect of this thought form upon your life and affairs if it is built in to the automatic response mechanism. That's a lot of work that we have done in this lesson. A lot of work to be done to begin to understand these energies that, again, are energies that are within us to begin to be able to create consciously. Take time to review this lesson. There are a lot of different components to it, but it's a major key to the switch on in your life or the switch off, and your ability to wield power that we are supposed to be using. We've never been taught this. We go to school, we learn a lot of things about subjects, but how has anyone ever taught us that we have within us an alchemical chamber beyond the womb for creating what we want in our lives, or what we need in our lives when we are in alignment with the divine to be able to create? And again, this is not for the separated self. When I say what we want, I don't mean for the solar plexus. Not the solar plexus ones. This is heart. This is soul. This is the soul, mind, brain alignment. Much love to all of you. I think there's been enough meditation, but let's simply go inside and take a moment to give thanks for this body of wisdom that is available to all those who are ready for it. I thank all of you for your interest and pray that you focus and practice. Until next time, in May, second festival, second of the spiritual festivals, the Wesak Festival. Much love to all of you. Thank you so much for your time, your interest, and your focus on the work of the Institute for Global Transformation in its many, many forms. New and rich things are happening. People getting together collectively to change humanity for the better. Thank you so much. Have a great time. Till next time. Bye bye.